Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today, Unveiling Dementia Realities. We have lots of participants, and I see people joining on very quickly, so we're going to give you just a few minutes to do that, and then we'll have some brief introductions, and we'll dig right in. But we are happy to see everyone here today for this intriguing and engaging webinar with this great panel of speakers that we're so excited to hear from. All right. So Brenda, since you said I could just let you take over, it's going to be a really easy job for me to do the intros. I know that your enthusiasm will quickly take over.
Thank you, Pam. Want me to go ahead and get started?
Let's give it a few more minutes.
Oh, gosh.
We've got people coming on. It's
Hurry up, people. Come on.
Just breathe a little bit.
I see them. I see the room filling up. That's always
Yep, we're filling up.
Yeah, it's always fun to see those numbers go up. And what is always fun for us as presenters to see is that they stick during the presentation because
That's right.
It is so fascinating. So
That's right. Well, it's because of the webinar that I heard you do back in January, I believe it was, when I was intrigued. I could not take my eyes or ears off of what was going on. And I said immediately, I have to reach out to Brenda. And here we are. So that's how it all happens, right? As connections. Yep. Okay. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the webinar today. I will introduce myself. I am Pam Brandon. I'm the founder of AGE-u-cate Training Institute, and we are thrilled to be hosting this great group of panelists today and leaders to hear their stories and insights and journeys. I would like to introduce Laura Ellen Christian, who's our president. She's also on to help with Q&As, and we want you to definitely not be shy. We want to hear your questions and allow everyone to engage with you. So without waiting any longer, you have a lot to share, so I am going to just say, welcome, National Council of Dementia Minds, the first national 501c3 nonprofit organization founded and governed by persons living with dementia. And here is Brenda Roberts. She is going to tell you a little bit more about the National Council of Dementia Minds. And she didn't want me to do a long introduction for her. I can tell you right now that her enthusiasm and energy is just contagious. So
good. I hope it is contagious.
The executive director. And again, thank you all, you wonderful panelists here who we couldn't be more grateful for you being here today. So get started, Brenda.
Absolutely. Before we start our PowerPoint, and then we have a short video message that is by people living with dementia to watch today too. I just want our panelists to introduce themselves. And we do have one other panelist who hopefully will be able to join us. But as we were discussing, they're busy folks, and he has a speaking engagement prior to this and will probably pop in shortly. But I am going to start by asking Bonnie Erickson to introduce herself. She is, you can tell who you are and stuff, but I have to brag, she is one of the founding members and our board president. So Bonnie, if you'd unmute yourself and just say hello. And
hi there, I'm Bonnie, and I live in Billings, Montana. And I've been with Dementia Minds, of course, like Brenda said, from the start, even before we were the National Council of Dementia Minds. So did you want any other info?
Bonnie, what type of dementia are you living with, and for about how long?
Mine has kind of evolved. Initially, I had a stroke at 57 and was diagnosed with MCI due to white matter disease. And then about a year later, it was changed to early stage young onset vascular. And then after a PET scan, and I'm in my 7th year. After a PET scan in 2023, I was also diagnosed with the beginnings of frontotemporal degeneration. So now it's called mixed dementia, which is often the case for folks.
Right. 7 years and still living well with dementia. That's awesome. Awesome. Yep. Hey, Miriam, you want to go next? There you go.
Okay, here we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Miriam. I live in Richmond, Virginia. I am fairly new to Dementia Minds. I feel very lucky and privileged to be a part of such a fantastic group under the leadership of Brenda Roberts, whose energy and smile is infectious indeed. So very grateful for that. I was diagnosed with dementia with Lewy bodies as well as Parkinsonism in December of 2022. So I am still in the early stages of my disease, still finding out more about what's going on. I had a scan as recently as yesterday with some new findings that I have yet to talk to my neurologist about. So it's also evolving, but for now, this is my diagnosis. I'm married. I've been married for 35 years. I have 3 adult children and 3 beautiful, beautiful grandchildren. So thank you for having me, and thank you for having my friends. And we're excited to share with you today.
Excellent. Thanks, Miriam. Gary, I'm saving Nia for last. Gary, welcome. Oh, don't forget to unmute yourself. I told them you were a busy guy and you'd be joining us, but would you mind introducing? We're just doing introductions.
Very good. My name is Gary Schmidt. I'm a retired family practice physician over 10 years ago. Practiced for 37 years. 30 years ago, for 30 of those years, I was medical director of a long-term care facility, which had 3 different memory units. Been retired now for over 10 years, and for the last 5 years, I have a diagnosis of dementia with Lewy bodies.
And Gary, I love it because Gary said he thought he knew something about dementia when he was the medical director, but now you have a whole new.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I thought I knew what I was doing, and I probably did, and I took good care of the people, but sure learned a lot more and realized some of the things I did then weren't appropriate probably then, but definitely not appropriate now.
We're learning all the time. So great. Glad you could join us.
Thank
okay, Miss Nia, I know you're like the others in terms of a traveling diagnosis, right? So tell us your story a little bit.
So I'm Nia, and I live in Meridian, Idaho, right outside of Boise. I am a retired Air Force Senior Master Sergeant. I served for 22 years. I was diagnosed in 2017, 4 months after I retired, with early onset Alzheimer's. At that time, I was told I would have probably about 5 to 8 good years left. I'm in my 7th year now, and I'm still kicking. I was re-diagnosed after I changed neurologist in 2022 with chronic traumatic encephalopathy due to traumatic brain injuries that I sustained in childhood. So my diagnosis has changed, and I'm just here. I'm a grandmother to a beautiful grandbaby, a 2-year-old, Olivia, and I'm a dog mom, and I'm a fierce advocate for dementia awareness.
She is such a fierce advocate. I have to tell everyone, she is busting stigma because Nia is a contestant in the Miss Idaho pageant. She is currently Miss Meridian, and that pageant's going to be this Saturday. So we're so excited to watch and see if Nia becomes the next Miss Idaho. How awesome is that? And we've put in the chat box, there's a fabulous face contest that helps move Nia up the ranks. And the host of the webinar was nice enough to put that link in the box. If you would go in and vote for Nia, she's already in first place, but let's keep her there. How awesome is that? And your platform is Memory Matters, right?
Memories Matter, Combating Young Onset Dementia Stigmas.
Awesome. So I can hardly wait for her to win. I'm going to go to share my slides now. And so on this slide, hopefully, do you see it okay? Can somebody tell me?
Yes.
Good. Perfect. Okay, so as was said, we are the first national nonprofit organization founded and governed by people living with dementia. So our entire board of directors are persons living with dementia. And I love to tell stories about how we got started, and I've taken my marching orders from them since the first day we met. On this slide is Bonnie that you previously met, and she's going to really quick, in about 2 minutes, tell you about our mission of our organization.
Hello and welcome to this training. My name is Bonnie Erickson. I am one of 8 co-founders of the National Council of Dementia Minds. When I was first diagnosed with early stage dementia, I looked locally for a support group, a peer-to-peer group that knew exactly what I was going through. Needless to say, there were none. I heard of a group that was forming in Michigan. It was a group of 8 people living with dementia that, with the support of our now executive director, Brenda Roberts, and a few other facilitators, created a lived experience presentation called The Journey, which takes the audience through the initial phase of something's wrong to the diagnosis stage, and then oftentimes into the darkness, and eventually back into the light and into the acceptance phase. It was through this work and experience that I learned and discovered there is life after a diagnosis. We are proof that people living with dementia can live well. Our mission is to develop and support a national core of dementia minds groups, people living with dementia who create opportunities for dialogue and education about strategies to live well with neurocognitive disorders. We target our dialogue and education opportunities for people living with dementia, healthcare professionals, researchers, care partners, families, policymakers, and communities at large. Why the dragonfly logo? Well, the dragonfly represents hope, happiness, adaptability, and new beginnings. The National Council of Dementia Minds groups are not simply support groups, although we do support one another. We are educators. We are subject matter experts in living well with a dementia diagnosis. We are people living with dementia, transforming the worldview of neurocognitive disorders. Again, thank you for being with us today.
I'm going to talk really quickly because the quicker I talk, the more time the panelists have to chat. I just want to let you know that Dementia Minds is involved in support, education, research, and advocacy. We have Dementia Minds groups that Bonnie mentioned. We have Meeting of the Minds. We have Friends and Families, which are educational presentations conducted by persons living with dementia for family, friends, and professionals to come. And we participate in research projects. We actually do more than participate, we had them off. We recently did a webinar series. Dr. Gary Schmidt, who's with us today, was a part of that series by our physicians. These are all doctors who were previous physicians who are now living with dementia. We were super proud to boast that we had participants or attendees from all 50 states and 14 countries involved in our webinar. We recently conducted a research project of persons living with dementia, and I encourage you to pull your cameras up and scan that QR code. The needs analysis was on information resources that people want who are living with dementia from the date of diagnosis to 1 year thereafter. And the folks living with dementia were involved in this research project from beginning to end, including writing the report. And so I would encourage you to go in and sign up for the report, and we'll be doing a webinar presentation about that soon. So next, the reason I was chatting so quickly is I wanted to get to the video. And after we watch this video, you'll be encouraged to ask questions of the panelists. That's what we're here for. And we thought this, for this organization in particular, that what better session to do than talk about sensory changes as it relates to living with dementia. So here we go. Bonnie, do you want to talk about I know you want to talk about the hearing. You have supersonic hearing now, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I just can't block out my table and the tables around me and the little fork that the baby dropped. And, the barking dog may be over at someone's yard that's not even close to me. It's just too much to weed out, and like I said in my little piece, that's kind of been from the get-go, as far as, and my visual thing seemed to improve. The spatial thing, that was shortly after my stroke, so I'm not sure if there was some rewiring that happened. So I'm down to using Audible because I can no longer read. I can read the words, but I can't read the words and put the whole thing together as a story. So one of my friends out here several years back said, well, try Audible. So I do that. And what's really cool is I definitely get my $14 worth because I can start over and over and over until I get, and it's so interesting because I do that and I miss things. And I just want to share this year that in January, I thought that my husband was mumbling because I felt like I was saying to him, and he's the one I see most, but saying to him and others, what's that? What did you say? So I went to an audiologist and checked out, but it's been, so I asked the audiologist, so then are you saying I can go home and tell him he's a mumbler? And she said, yeah, I would. She said, no, actually, it's probably an auditory processing disorder because of the things that are going on in my brain. So I hear the beginning part and then it just fades away. So my brain isn't staying up all the time. But I always tell all my friends and family and anyone that has a diagnosis, go to that speech therapy. It's not just language, it's actually learning how to speak and enunciate and slow down, give yourself time to process. So, yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Does somebody else on the panel want to share anything? Oh, come on.
I'm just going to say one thing about the hallucinations that was talked about. Hallucinations can be caused by medication. My mother-in-law was on Aricept and she was on, I think it dose of like 10 milligrams, and she was hearing music. They stopped the Aricept and music went away, and they put her back on a 5 milligrams and stayed away. Yes, medication can cause it, but medication can also help it. I've had some hallucinations, and I'm on Aricept and Amenda, and I've had very few since I've been on the medication. A lot of the speech and hearing problems that were mentioned are shared. I think the one thing that I've learned over the years is there's so much commonality between the different cognitive disorders. I have Lewy Body Dementia. Others do not, but yet we still have the same perception, same disabilities, the same problems. I can say just one more thing before I let, which may be focusing on the group that's here, which is long-term care and the group homes and things like that. This is true. But if you work there, the hearing problems during mealtime is a problem. What was shared in the video and with Bonnie, I have that same problem with noise bothering me. And when I was working in the nursing home, and it was imperative that everyone ate their meal together because that was the time to socialize. And that noise is really distracting to me. And I have one friend in this, not on this group, she's not here. She says if she's ever put in a nursing home, she will not eat in the dining room because it's too hard. I find I'm eating so very, very slow. So I'm going to be sitting at the table much longer than anyone else. That's a problem for your waiters and the people who are picking up the tables and things. And it puts focus on me. And just be cognizant of those things.
Yeah, you're right. Our one friend does say she can't eat and talk at the same time. So it's like, do you want to visit with me or do you want me to eat? Because she'll get talking and then they'll be like, well, isn't your food good? Oh, my food. And then she'll eat and then you'll talk and then she forgets about the food. Or so there's that plus the overstimulation that I think people need to be really aware of. Miriam, did you want to share something?
I did. I wanted to share something specific to dementia with Lewy bodies, because there are several types of dementia, but what is uniquely characteristic of dementia with Lewy bodies are the fluctuations in cognition and attention and focus that frankly are confusing and frustrating for those of us who experience them, because what a person with dementia with Lewy bodies can do on a Tuesday, they may not be able to do the very next day on Wednesday. So there is, instead of a steady decline, I guess, in cognition and ability, we like to call it a roller coaster of ability. And so we're up and down and up and down. And it is confusing for caregivers and family members. Because of the lack of consistency. So that's one thing that I wanted to say. Second, I just wanted to piggyback on what everyone else said, and that is that the sensory changes can be profound. Multitasking is impossible. Rushing to do anything is my undoing. I mean, I just, even just getting out of the car and the steps that I have to do, take off my seatbelt, grab my purse. If I try to rush and do all that, I just freeze because it's too much. It's overstimulating. So hallucinations, I wanted to say mine were helped. I really don't have as many as I did prior to starting medication. So the Aricept helped me when I was on it. I am now on rivastigmine, which is also helping. And I also take quetiapine because I was having some vivid, scary kind of vivid dreams and insomnia. So sometimes the medication does really help. I personally am very grateful for the medication that I take and I was given shortly after diagnosis. So I've been able to maintain a level of functioning that is great and allows me to do things like this. So I'm very thankful for that.
Excellent. I love the fact that you said the roller coaster sort of thing, because I have heard care partners say, well, my loved one could do this yesterday, but they're just manipulating me, or they won't do it for me, or, that sort of thing. And it's like, no, it's the fluctuating abilities, right? From day to day,
Yes.
minute to minute, morning to night, all those kinds of changes. And so
that also makes a problem for diagnosis when you're with the doctor.
Yes,
because
Gary.
you may be having a good day and they're not going to see that.
Or
show timing.
That's should be showtime, like we're all doing right now.
That's right.
Yep. Nia, what do you have to share?
Well, for me, with CT or suspected CTE, a lot of it depends on what parts of the brain are atrophied and damaged as to what I can do. So I do have a lot of issues with sensory issues and multitasking, executive functioning, decision making. My coordination and my attention span is short. I do hallucinate, but like Miss Miriam, My medication helped. I'm on Abilify, which is typically given for people with schizophrenia. But that actually helped me with my hallucinations. So I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful that my doctors think outside of the box.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I'm also because of my attention span and my focus, I'm on Provigil, which is a brain stimulant. So my neurologist thinks outside the box for everything to keep me afloat.
That's amazing. That's great. And, it makes me think too of what, so that's great, the right medications, and all this information. And Gary, I remember you sharing one time, and this was interesting to me, that just because a hallucination is happening doesn't mean you have to treat it. The lady.
Exactly. Yeah.
So tell us
I had
more
a
about.
lady in the nursing home who I'm sure in hindsight she had Lewy bodies, advanced Lewy bodies, because she also had the Parkinsonian symptoms, and she'd have worse hallucinations when medication from the Cinnamate that we were using was in a higher dose. But she had children coming into her nursing home room, which bothered her at first, but then she enjoyed it because it gave her something to watch and something to do and gave her enjoyment. And she told her daughter and the caregivers that, and they didn't worry about it. Her daughter said, "Please don't treat it because she's having fun with them."
Oh, that
Yeah.
Gary, I have that same experience with when I'm outside, I see birds, hummingbirds. I'll see them
Yeah.
come, and just fly, sort of like Snow White. I feel like the birds are I see the birds coming in front of me and then they talk and then they fly away. And it's so peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of hallucinations, this is going to sound really weird, but I've actually been excited to see some of them. And that sounds very strange, probably. But for instance, around the holidays, I had a hallucination of a holiday centerpiece. And it was so beautiful. And so I decided that I would create it. I would go to the store, and I did, and like I bought all these things, and that is what I did. And that
Wow.
was
Oh,
a
wow.
hallucination. So yeah, I mean, and
You
the
made it
other ones,
real.
like you, Gary, I think I have a lot of closed eye ones when I have them,
Mhm.
but they are very detailed.
Yes.
They're moving, so there's motion. And a lot of times they're kind of cartoony, almost like Looney Tunes. So they are entertaining. I just, they're not scary. Those aren't. So
I love, love, love. And when you guys were talking yesterday, and so for the audience who's listening, I can remember when I worked in nursing homes and assisted living when I was younger. So you're having a hallucination with your eyes closed. And I remember my grandma saying, "I'm not sleeping, I'm resting my eyes," right? And so think about it. If you have a person living with dementia and they're sitting there and they might be hallucinating and being somewhere else. And if you go wake them up, I'm guessing, you guys tell me, it's like, whoa. And it's not really wake them up, but if you open their eyes and bring them to this reality, it's like, whoa, where'd all these people come from or whatever? Because you were in a different place, right?
mm-hmm. Yep.
A story that for me is mine often happens when I'm riding in the car. I don't drive anymore. And I close my eyes because my eyes don't focus and they get tired. And I visualize behind my eyes the road. The road is turning, fields are on the side, there's homes. There's one time I visualized we were turning, and I actually turned and jumped because we were going into a tree. And I opened my eyes, and it was a straight and narrow road. So it's very real.
Yes, yes.
Um,
We have some great questions though in the chat, the Q&A, Gary. And so this is interesting. So I think most people think you don't know when you're having a hallucination. So you guys know.
Mhm.
You think you always know, or you don't always know? Yeah.
So for me, the scary ones that are in the house, like if I hear voices and or see the shadow people, the only way I'm grounded is that my dog is not barking.
Ah, okay.
So because my dog, I have a little Chihuahua, and you know how Chihuahuas are, they bark for everything. So if there was an inkling of there being another soul in this house or being in this house, she would be barking. So that's the only thing that grounds me is Sophie's not barking, so it's not real.
Okay. Okay.
I usually know. I can remember a few times where I questioned whether or not something was real. And honestly, that's the main reason that I stopped driving, because I felt like if I was beginning to have doubts about what was really there and what wasn't, it was just like it made me an impaired driver, or it could make me an impaired driver. So I stopped driving. I saw a man, I thought I saw a man in the middle of I-95 working on a pickup truck. And I thought, why is he like right in the middle lane? He's gonna get killed. And it was just so real. But looking back in the mirror, there was no one there. So that was enough for me to say,
Right.
okay, hang up the keys. It's not going to be a guarantee that you'll be safe or that you won't hurt someone else.
Right. Oh, amen. A perfect, great. I mean, amazing stuff you guys are sharing. And the comments that are coming in too. We hear this all the time, what we see in the chat box. I wish I would have known this, right? For my father. I wish I would have known this. This, I just want to stress that this is what National Council of Dementia Minds does, is learn from the people living with dementia, so we can learn their experience. And then you have the questions that you have that are so relevant. But I do have to say, before I get to some of the questions, I love this one. Do you drink alcohol? Okay, you've been having hallucinations. That's incredibly interesting. But does anybody drink alcohol?
No.
I might have a port wine once every maybe 4 or 5 months. I might have a little bit, like this much.
I'm gonna call Bonnie out because Bonnie and I just traveled together. We enjoyed some alcohol together, didn't we?
I do enjoy my wine. I can no longer tolerate anything stronger than that. And anything more than maybe 2 glasses. And I better be by my bed. I can't, it's not like 10, 15 years ago where I could go out and we could go to dinner and we could go visit over cocktails. That's gone. It just doesn't work that way. And it just hits you differently with the brain change for me, I feel. So I'm very, very, very careful about that.
How about you, Gary?
Well, I have to admit that when I was much younger, I probably drank more than I should. Don't know that I was ever addicted to it, but I drank more than I should. And then I worked in a chemical dependency unit where I became very cognizant of it. And I cut down a lot at that time. Recently, and probably somewhat to my wife's demise, questioning, is I do enjoy having a drink at 4 or 5 o'clock at night. Not because I want to get high or I want to get drunk, not because it puts me to sleep, because it's one thing, I enjoy the taste. I really do. And I enjoy the taste of better wine, better alcohol. No, I'll have a small glass, I'll have a regular glass of wine, or I'll have a beer or a small cocktail, but never more than one. That's so it's something, it's one of the things that it gives me, maybe pleasure.
Yeah.
And as you know, there's decreasing things that give us pleasure in our life right now.
Bonnie, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I know we're running out of time, and
I know, I see Pam leaning forward, like giving us
there was
the-
a comment or a question about placing someone in a noisy environment. And I just want to share, I mean, that's the first thing I do when I walk in any place that's public, is kind of scan on where the most, mostly a corner with your back in the corner so you can see out and not get all this, but placing someone not in the middle of a table. If it's a table for 6, maybe place your person at the end of the table, the furthest away from all of the noise and the action would be so beneficial for them. I just know it would. And whoever brought that up, what a kind thing to, want to fix for them. And
I want to say real quick too, because I saw, and Bonnie, you mentioned it yesterday in our discussion, and I know it's 3:00 on the dot, but one question was, okay, happy hallucinations, but what about sad? Just like Brian said in the hallucination, his wife would join him with the hallucination, and when he would see it, he'd see the scary figure that scared him, she'd pick up and throw the shoe. So don't tell him you're not having a hallucination. We're awesome. Visit us at dementiaminds.org. Sign up for our newsletter so that you can attend our various educational events. And thank you, Educate, for inviting us. And I hope
Thank you all. You are all rock stars.
Thank you.
This was very
Yeah.
insightful. We could go on for an hour. Thank you all for joining, and hopefully you'll be back with us again very soon. So
Hope
have a
so
great
too.
day, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.